everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Gabe Siegel, and I will be leading the presentation. Today's webinar will review ASI's tissue match application, a soon-to-be-released feature that will make tissue fish more cost-effective while providing pathologists and fish technologists with greater clinical confidence. At this point, I would like to go over how the webinar will work. As we have many people participating in the webinar, everyone will be placed in mute mode during the session. If at any point you have questions, please send in the questions via the text box on the right side of the screen, and I will address them at the end of the session. I would also like to note that attending today's webinar include ASI's business partners, pathologists, and lab directors. I will do my best to address the topic to make it relevant to all attendees. However, if there is an issue which you feel is not being addressed, please send in the question and I will address it at the end of the session. I anticipate that the entire webinar should take under 30 minutes, which will allow everyone to learn something new and exciting, and then to return to their busy schedules. We will begin the webinar with a presentation, then jump into the actual software, and finally end with questions and answers. So thanks again for joining us, and we will now begin. So let's start by discussing how fish is done today. The typical workflow goes something like this. A pathologist generally does not work in the same area as the fish technician. And in order to instruct the fish technician where to scan, the pathologist will mark off the bottom of a fish slide with a diamond-tipped engraver, where it is believed that the region of interest is located. After receiving the marked slide, the fish technologist will scan the encircled area and provide the pathologist with the scanned fish image and analysis, which the pathologist will then review. However, this workflow has a number of problems with it. First of all, there is a difficulty of transferring the region of interest to the fish technician. How is the region decided upon? Was it the best region of interest? And there's the difficulty of working with a diamond engraver on such a small area. And even after the pathologist sent the slide off with the diamond engraved area, the pathologist has to trust the results from the lab that they really scanned the region of interest which was marked off. As this method is not done digitally, there is no documentation of the work performed to show the pathologist from which area of the slide the results were taken. And should the encircled area not be correct, there is no clear way for the fish technician to know that the work being performed is essentially of no clinical value. Alternatively, we can look at the problem from the point of view of time. How much time does it take to find the region of interest? And what is the trade-off in terms of clinical relevance? ASI's tissue match comes to solve all the problems associated with selecting the region of interest for fish samples. With tissue match, pathologists will be able to easily and accurately choose the best region of interest on the fish slide, and to know with certainty that the area scanned was in fact the area which was marked off. Essentially, we want to take away the guesswork and in its place give the pathologist and fish technician absolute confidence in the clinical relevance of the fish sample. And we want to do this in a method which will improve the clinical value of the work while lowering the cost associated with it. I wanted to give an analogy of how tissue match works. And being that I come from Chicago, which has a beautiful skyline, I thought it would be both appropriate and very explanatory to use this image of Chicago taken at night. If I were asked where the tallest building is located, I would not be able to give an exact answer. At best, I can guess based on my knowledge of how the city is spread out, or after spending a lot of time examining the image, come up with a few general areas that look promising. But if I were to overlap a map of the city taken during the day, where the tallest building is very clearly seen, I could go back to the night image and confidently pinpoint the location of the tallest building. And this is exactly what we do with tissue match. Since by looking at the fish slide, we can't know with certainty the region of interest, we take the tissue sample and make two stains, one H&D and the second being fish. And since the tissue samples are nearly identical, coming from the same sample area, we can then confidently know the region of interest on the fish slide by viewing this clearly defined area on the H&D slide. While this concept of using an H&E sample to find the region of interest is not new, what we bring to the table is the ability to do all of this digitally. Our workflow takes a tiled image of both slides at 4x. Once there is an H&D at 4x, many times the pathologist can view the morphology of the slide in sufficient detail. But if 4x is not sufficient, the pathologist can always zoom into a 20x resolution. So we mark off the region of interest on the H&D, and that area is then automatically marked on the corresponding fish slide. Once the fish slide coordinates are known, the system can go immediately into scanning at 60x. And I would like to point out that since we're able to align the images, it really makes no difference that the samples will be facing different directions, being upside down or rotated relative to each other. I would now like to give a screenshot of the application and mention that the beauty of ASI's solution is really how simple we have made the workflow. We start by scanning the H&D and fish slide at 4x and create a tiled image of both slides. We then bring both images into the application, align them by placing pointers at different locations, and mark off the region of interest on the H&D slide with a choice of tools such as freehand or circle. After marking the region of interest on the H&D slide, the region of interest automatically appears on the fish slide, and we can go immediately into scanning. And if the technician does not wish to scan immediately, that is also okay. The system remembers the location of the region of interest, and the fish technologist can open the slide at any time and then go straight into scanning at 60x. Let's briefly touch upon the system requirements to run TissueMatch. We have designed TissueMatch to fit into the workflow of any lab and its resources. Some labs have their bright field and fish analysis taking place on separate systems. In this case, TissueMatch is installed on the bright field scanning system and also on the fish scanning and analysis system. The connection between the two systems is through the computer network. Other labs may use the same automatic microscope for both bright field and fish analysis. In this case, TissueMatch is installed on this single automatic system. The pathologist runs the application for the bright field work, while the fish technician runs the application at a different time for the fluorescent work. Finally, some labs may have bright field scanning capabilities already in place with whole slide imaging or other solutions. In this case, our TissueMatch application is able to import previously scanned bright field images. The pathologist then marks the region of interest on the imported H&D image on whatever system the pathologist normally uses. The fish analysis by the technician will take place on the automated fluorescent scanning system. And if this system is different than what the pathologist uses, the data flows between them over the computer network. Having discussed the process and technical workflow, I wanted to discuss briefly how we envision the workflow within the lab. After the pathologist marks the region of interest on the H&D slide and saves it in the database, the fish technician will be able to open the fish slide in the software, match the slides, and then go immediately into a 60x scan at the region of interest. The scanned image and the results are saved in the database, and the pathologist can now come in and review the results. And of course, I should mention that all actions performed are saved in our database, as well as being automatically transferred to the lab's LIS. So our value proposition is to have a complete digital workflow which bridges H&D and fish analysis. We believe TissueMatch will make fish faster and more efficient, and by providing more confidence and clinically relevant data to the pathologist, we will help improve the reliability of the clinical results. And the end result of having a process which runs correctly will be higher quality results, reduced time per slide, manageable records, and lab savings. So at this point in time, I would like to switch the presentation to the software and show you how the actual workflow appears. Following the demonstration, I will answer any questions which were sent in. And I have placed my email address on the screen should anyone wish to send me a question at a later point. So please hold on while I switch screens to the software. You are now viewing a screenshot of the Genesis software. For this demo, I have already scanned the H&E and fish slides, so they are waiting for us in the database. But should anyone wish to see how Genesis creates the tiled images, please send me a note and I'll arrange for a private demonstration. In addition, this demo will be divided into two sections. In the first part, I will be playing the role of the pathologist, where I will mark the H&E slide. In the second part, I will play the role of the technician, where I will match the slides. So I will now be the pathologist. I start by choosing the H&E slide, and then I click on the tissue match icon. The H&E slide appears. I'm now going to increase the resolution and mark off the region of interest with the freehand tool. And that's it. I'm done. I press Save and Close, and this information is now waiting for the fish technologist, who I will now become. The fish technologist clicks on the fish slide and clicks on the tissue match icon. Next, I click on Load Image, and the H&E slide appears with the region of interest which the pathologist clearly marked off. I'm now going to align the two images. I click on the Draw Matching Points icon and choose 2 points on the slide for marking it for alignment. Next, I mark the same 2 points on the fish slide. And that's it. The region of interest now appears on the fish slide in the same place as on the H&E slide. Now I just click Save and Close, and I could either go immediately into scanning or wait till a later point in time. I'm now going to switch back from the software.
Okay. Well, Gabe, thank you so much for that presentation and demonstration. And while you were talking, a number of questions came in, and I would like to now go through them, and we'll try to answer them. Again, if anybody else has any other questions, you can keep sending them in until the end of the webinar. And if you have a question even after the webinar is over, you can send us an email at any time. So we have the first question came in, says, how much time does the H&E and DAPI scan at 4x of the entire slide take? Well, you know what, Gabe? I think I'll answer that one after consulting with our technical expert who's sitting right next to me. Normally, the H&E slide will take 1 minute under 4x. The DAPI will also take a similar amount of time under the assumption that it's a good, clean, freshly made fish slide. The next question that came in was, how much does the tissue match cost?
This is a great question. I really like it. Tissue match is priced comparably to other ASI software applications, though for the first few months following the release, there will be a significant discount.
Thank you, Gabe. And here's another question. I'm a pathologist at a small hospital, and I send my fish out to a different lab. How will I be able to use tissue match? And will there be any problem with data security?
There is really no problem for a small hospital which sends out their fish samples to use tissue match. ASI offers several solutions, whether it be via our cloud network or VPN style connection. And these are solutions used throughout healthcare today, so there should not be any surprises with data security. Obviously, the only major issue is to choose a lab that has our tissue match software.
Okay, Gabe, here's another one for you. I'm an ASI existing customer. Will I have to upgrade the software to use tissue match?
Tissue match will be coming out with the next software update. The software update is free of charge for clients under service, but there will be a license fee for the tissue match application. And as long as we're discussing the software, the release should be within this quarter.
Thank you, Gabe. Here's another one. Are the images and data saved onto the patient's electronic medical records?
Okay. Our database interfaces with the lab's LIS, and then each hospital, lab, location has to decide how to integrate their LIS with their EMR. So it's not a direct update, but sometimes indirect is good enough.
And another question. We have a whole slide scanner for Brightfield. Can I import the image from the scanner to the tissue match software?
Absolutely. Our software has no problem accepting images from other systems. That being said, I would like to mention that our image capture has many advantages over whole slide imaging. However, I will save these advantages till our next webinar, when we will be discussing our high-path software for quantitative IHC computer-aided scoring.
The next question, Gabe, is the tissue match FDA approved or cleared?
No, we aren't seeking FDA clearance for tissue match, as it doesn't do any clinical analysis. However, our fish is FDA cleared for a number of applications, including HER2 and ELK.
Gabe, is there a limit as to the number of regions what can be chosen on a particular H&E slide?
No, there's no limit. You can have more than one. In fact, I have a screenshot of this, and if you give me just 1 minute, I can pull up the image. So here it might be a little hard to see on the H&E, but there are 2 regions which are circled, and you can clearly see the 2 circles on the fish slide, and not limited to 2. There can be as many regions as one would like.
Well, thank you, Gabe. That's very exciting. So those are all the questions that we have gotten so far. If anybody else has a question, now is the time to speak. Okay, that is it. No further questions have come in. I would like to thank Gabe for his very interesting presentation, and I'll pass the phone over to Gabe so he can say goodbye to all of you. Thank you for your participation.
Okay, this is it. I want to thank everyone for joining us in today's webinar. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at Gabes, G-A-B-E-S, at spectral-imaging.com. And have a great rest of the day, evening, night, wherever you may be located. Bye-bye.